Some African American communities are prospering, like the residents of Greenwood, a suburb of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Here, former slaves were given land after the Civil War, and this rare footage shows the thriving town they built. A remarkable Baptist pastor named Solomon Sir Jones is the pioneering filmmaker. His footage was lost for more than 50 years. Jones captures the bustling life of Greenwood, which could be any American small town. But Tulsa's whites don't like what they see. In May 1921, after a black man is accused of assaulting a white woman, a white mob rampages through the city. For a night and a day, they loot and burn Greenwood. A Fox News crew captures the only surviving footage. It is the bloodiest racial massacre in American history, leaving nearly 300 dead.
Rising inequality doesn't just increase our risks from pitchforks, but it's also terrible for business too. What we now know is true, that an economy is best understood as an ecosystem and characterized by the same kinds of feedback loops you find in a natural ecosystem. A feedback loop between customers and businesses. Raising wages increases demand, which increases hiring, which in turn increases wages and demand and profits. And that virtuous cycle of increasing prosperity is precisely what is missing from today's economic recovery. And this is why we need to put behind us the trickle-down policies that so dominate both political parties and embrace something I call middle-out economics. Middle-out economics rejects the neoclassical economic idea that economies are efficient, linear, mechanistic, that they tend towards equilibrium and fairness, and instead embraces the 21st century idea that economies are complex, adaptive, ecosystemic, that they tend away from equilibrium and toward inequality, that they're not efficient at all, but are effective if well managed. This 21st century perspective allows you to clearly see that capitalism does not work by effectively allocating existing resources. It works by effectively creating new solutions to human problems. The genius of capitalism is that it is an evolutionary solution-finding system. It rewards people for solving other people's problems. The difference between a poor society and a rich society, obviously, is the degree to which that society has generated solutions in the form of products for its citizens. The sum of the solutions that we have in our society really is our prosperity, and this explains why companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Apple and the entrepreneurs who created those companies have contributed so much to our nation's prosperity. This 21st century perspective also makes clear that what we think of as economic growth is best understood as the rate at which we solve problems. But that rate is totally dependent upon how many problem solvers, diverse, able problem solvers we have, and thus how many of our fellow citizens actively participate, both as entrepreneurs who can offer solutions and as customers who consume them. But this maximizing participation thing doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by itself. It requires effort and investment. which is why all highly prosperous capitalist democracies are characterized by massive investments in the middle class and the infrastructure that they depend on. We plutocrats need to get this trickle-down economics thing behind us. This idea that the better we do, the better everyone else will do. It's not true. How could it be? I earn 1,000 times the median wage, but I do not buy 1,000 times as much stuff, do I? I actually bought 2 pairs of these pants, what my partner Mike calls my manager pants. I could have bought 2,000 pairs, but what would I do with them? So here's an idea for a new kind of economics, a new kind of politics that I call new capitalism. Let's acknowledge that capitalism beats the alternatives, but also that the more people we include, both as entrepreneurs and as customers, the better it works. Let's by all means shrink the size of government, but not by slashing the poverty programs, but by ensuring that workers are paid enough so that they actually don't need those programs. Let's invest enough in the middle class to make our economy fairer and more inclusive, and by fairer, more truly competitive. And by more truly competitive, more able to generate the solutions to human problems that are the true drivers of growth and prosperity. Capitalism is the greatest social technology ever invented for creating prosperity in human societies if it is well managed. But capitalism, because of the fundamental multiplicative dynamics of complex systems, tends towards, inexorably, inequality, concentration, and collapse. The work of democracies is to maximize the inclusion of the many in order to create prosperity, not to enable the few to accumulate money. Government does create prosperity and growth by creating the conditions that allow both entrepreneurs and their customers to thrive. Balancing the power of capitalists like me and workers isn't bad for capitalism, it's essential to it. Programs like a reasonable minimum wage, affordable health care, paid sick leave, and the progressive taxation necessary to pay for the important infrastructure necessary to the middle class, like education, R&D. These are indispensable tools shrewd capitalists should embrace.
But I think there is no question that the problems we face as a nation are so huge. Obviously no one person can do it. And one of the things that I want to see happen, and what we will strive for under our administration, is to decentralize power all over this country. To give working people the power to help make decisions locally. So, I understand your question, and let me also say, if I might, that a Bernie Sanders administration will look like America. It will reflect the diversity of America. I know that there will be at least one old white guy there, but I suspect most of the others will not be. So,
good afternoon. It is great to be here. It's great to be at the Francis Marion Performing Arts Center. Isn't this a beautiful place? The PAC has just done wonderful things. We almost didn't get Senator Sanders here, though, because, he's sworn off PACs completely. But we had to convince him that this is a different kind of PAC. I was asked to speak here today about Medicare for All. And there are lots of reasons, innumerable reasons, why Medicare for All makes sense as a policy choice. Now, we can talk about why it should be the right of every American citizen to about how it's immoral to have the wealthiest country in the history of the world have citizens that die from treatable illnesses because they can't have health care. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about money. I want to talk about money, and in particular, I want to talk about profit. Now, think about this. Medicare for All can expand coverage, and it can reduce cost by simply eliminating profit from the equation. The massive profits that are made by the healthcare industry. AM Best reports that in 2018, just through the third quarter, the insurance industry, the healthcare insurance industry, made over $25 billion in profit. In profit. 25 billion with a B. And that's through the third quarter. That didn't make it all the way through the year for them. That's up 20% over last year, and it continues to grow. Now, how do you make profit if you're a health carrier? Well, it ain't complicated. It's not rocket science. You spend out in claims less than you collect in premiums. You spend less than you get. And so how do you do that? You increase premiums. You increase deductibles. You decrease claims payments. You only insure the healthiest among us. And that, of course, is precisely what we have in this country right now. Millions of uninsured Americans, premiums and healthcare costs that are double per capita what they are in every other industrialized country in the world. That's the situation we have. The remedy is to take those $25 billion worth of profit and instead apply that to coverage, apply that to paying claims. The federal government does not need to make a profit. Now, unsurprisingly, the healthcare industry and their lackeys are opposed to that. I wonder why. They have 25 billion reasons to be opposed to that. And so what do they tell us? They tell us government's inefficient. They tell us that it's anti-competitive. It's un-American. They tell us you're a socialist if you believe in Medicare. Well, you know, under President Obama, when we were debating the Affordable Care Act and we were debating the public option, and we said that people should have an opportunity to buy into a public option, to buy into Medicare, the insurance industry opposed that. Why? Because they didn't want to compete with the inefficient government. And why didn't they want to compete with inefficient government? Because the government doesn't have to generate $25 billion of profit every year to pay their wealthy shareholders. That's what we have right now, and we can remedy that problem by going after the money, going after the profit, and funding health care for everybody in this country the way they do in every other industrialized country in the world. There is one candidate who has been talking about Medicare for All for years. There is one candidate that's been out there beating that drum, and now there are more and more, aren't there? As there should be. That candidate is Bernie Sanders. That's why I support him. He'll be here today, and I hope you'll support him as well. Thank you.
All the way from California, Congressman Ro Khanna.
Thank you. It's great to be in Florence, and what a great turnout. I want to thank Mayor Ukela for welcoming us. How many of you saw any of the Democratic debates? Raise your hand. Now, here's the thing in those debates. There are a lot of candidates who have a self-interest in obfuscating and making Medicare for All to sound far more complicated than it actually is. Medicare for All is actually one of the simplest ideas. It's simple because it's good policy. And good policy, like the truth, tends to be simple. How many folks here think they have a good idea about what Medicare for All means? Good. By the end of it, I want everyone to remember 4 things about Medicare for All. Just 4 simple things that when people come with all these lies, we're going to push back with these facts. Medicare for All means more benefits, less costs, everybody's covered, and more jobs. Let me go through all 4 very quickly. More coverage. Senator Sanders' plan means that people on Medicare are going to now get dental coverage, they're going to get vision covered, they're going to get their hearing covered, they're going to get long-term care covered. That's the fact. It's going to mean better coverage for anyone who's on Medicare and for every single person. How many people here know someone who has been in the hospital too long and then they start getting bills? Have you known someone? I mean, it's crazy. There was someone who contacted my office. You know, after 90 days, how much you have to pay for a hospital stay under current Medicare? $682 a day. How many people here can afford $682 a day in a hospital? If you don't want that, you're for Bernie Sanders' plan. Because Bernie Sanders' plan means if you get on Medicare and you go to the hospital, you're not going to be charged $682 a day. So that's more benefits, less cost. Let me just be very clear about this. The average family of 4, any guesses on how much we're paying for the average family of 4 with health care today? $28,000. $28,000. From the family, some of it comes from the employer. From the family itself, $12,000 out of your pockets. Guess what that goes down to under Bernie Sanders' plan? Any guesses? 0. 0. So more benefits, less cost, everybody's covered. How do you know this? Because under Bernie Sanders' plan, you get Medicare the day you are born. No more fighting with insurance companies. And here's the final point, which really, you know, I feel like throwing something at the TV when I hear these candidates. How many of you, they say, oh, it's going to cost us jobs. It's going to close rural hospitals. That is just a lie. It's a lie. You know why it's a lie? Because what is the plan going to do? Think about it. It's going to get more people on Medicare for All. That means more people are going to have revenue. That means we're going to need more doctors, more nurses, more people in the healthcare industry. It's going to create millions of new jobs. And it's going to fund rural hospitals so that the hospitals actually have resources. So why is it, if Medicare for All is going to mean more benefits, less costs, everyone covered, and more jobs, why is it that so many people are opposed to it? I'll tell you why it is. Because Aetna's CEO makes $58 million a year. Because hospital CEOs are making $6 million a year. Because pharmaceutical CEOs are making tens of millions of dollars a year. They're the ones who are launching attack ads of millions of dollars against Senator Sanders. This is not a debate about policy. This is a debate about whether we are going to stand up for ordinary people in this country or are we going to stand with special interests. The senator has the courage to stand for a policy that we've known is true since the time of Lyndon Johnson. And let me end with this. Next time a candidate says, oh, Senator Sanders, you're so radical, you're so out there, how can you have Medicare for all? I want us to tell them, would you have said that to Lyndon Johnson? Because Lyndon Johnson wanted Medicare for all. Would you have said that to Daniel Patrick Moynihan? Because when we had in 1994 all those hearings, if you remember, with Secretary Clinton and the health care plan, 25 hearings Daniel Patrick Moynihan had. Probably the smartest senator. I mean, Senator Sanders is pretty smart, but Moynihan was very, very smart. One of the smartest senators. And he said, at the end of the 25 hearings, he said, all of this is really complex. The only thing that makes sense in this country is Medicare for all. That was 1994. Today is 2019. I'll tell you the difference in this race. There may be different people who now claim to be for Medicare for all. There's only one person who, as president of the United States, will deliver Medicare for all, fulfill Lyndon Johnson's dream, and fight for healthcare justice. That is Bernie Sanders, the next president of the United States. Thank you.
please welcome our national co-chair, Senator Nina Turner.
Florence. Wow, every speaker before me, but Rep kind of did that, didn't he? He kept it simple. And so what this thing is about is really weaved into what Congresswoman Barbara Jordan once said, and she said these words: what the people want is very simple. They want an America as good as its promise, and that's all we're talking about. And what my colleague just laid out is there's a difference between somebody who's on the side of the people solidly and somebody who want to play games. Somebody who understands that the needs of the workaday people in this country is more important than those who can buy off Congress members, and they don't. The difference between somebody who goes to fundraisers and hobnobs with the ultra-wealthy and to tell them in their living rooms that nothing will fundamentally change for multimillionaires and billionaires. Well, if nothing fundamentally changes for multimillionaires and billionaires, then nothing fundamentally changes for you and 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 all that you love. So only all that we love is on the line. Now, we had the doctor, he laid it out about what is necessary in this country to have Medicare for all, to ensure that we stop commodifying health care in the United States of America. It is the difference between corporate-run health care or public-run health care. Those are the two differences. And anybody who says something different, they wrong. And this is about building on the ACA, not taking from the ACA. This is about labor unions being able to negotiate for wages and work conditions instead of having to negotiate within that negotiation on their health care. We are not going to let folks separate union workers from non-union workers. We are all in this together. All in this together. So as Rep. Conda laid out, it's easy. And it is the same position that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was in when he analyzed the healthcare system in this country. He talked about of all of the injustices or all of the inequities that he has seen in this country. The injustices in the healthcare system by far is the worst. So now we have a champion who will not equivocate on what it means to stand up for the working poor and the barely middle class in this country. We got that champion, and his name is Senator Bernard Sanders. And you know what the beautiful thing is, Florence? He's not new to this. For every bad thing that was happening in this country, if you go back and roll the tape, there was Mayor Sanders, there was Congressman Sanders, there's Senator Sanders, and next it will be President Sanders standing up for the people. And you know what? I mean, I want us to have this debate. I want to roll the tape. I'm glad there's going to be 10 folks on this stage. I wish it was more on the stage. Let's have them juxtaposition Senator Bernie Sanders with anybody else on that stage. We win every time because he doesn't go for what's popular. He doesn't go for what's in the polls. He goes what is in the best interest of the people, and that is Medicare for all. That is college for all. That is canceling student debt. That is lifting up the people in this country from all walks of life. That's how the senator rolls all day long. So I want to have this debate. And it is a beautiful thing, as my colleague just said, that so many people have seen the light. Beautiful thing. But we don't have to go with the copies, baby, when we got the original, and his name is Bernie Sanders. We ain't got to have no copies. We go with the original. The one who doesn't have to answer to his owners. I'm sorry, the donor class. Because he started this thing in 2016 when he ran for president. He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run a campaign based on the donations of the people. And he showed that it can be done. Every single presidential candidate should be running a race that way so that they don't have to answer to the donor class. So, Florence, if somebody tells you that we dreaming too big and reaching too high, if anybody tells you to accept anything less than Medicare for all, or college for all, or canceling student debt. We were asked to bail out Wall Street, and we did that. Now it's time to give some love to Main Street, and that is what Senator Bernie Sanders stands for. This is about our willingness to do it. We are the wealthiest nation on the face of the earth. And if we have the will to do it, it can be done. But let me tell you something, Florence. Folks are not just going to roll over in Wall Street and the pharmaceutical industry and these CEOs of companies. Now, I'm going to say this, because, see, this is not about begrudging people any wealth. We all want some wealth. But what we are sick and tired of is excessive greed on the backs and the necks of the working people of the United States of America. They can't have it all. They can't have it all. Now, who does this? Can I just say, Senator Bernard Sanders has an anti-endorsement list, Florence. I mean, who does this? Very much in the spirit of FDR, judge me by my enemies. In modern terms, we're going to say, judge me by my haters. He is the only presidential candidate that has that long of a list of haters because they want to keep things the way that they are. President Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it is done. We can have Medicare for all. We can have college for all. We can cancel student debt. We can make sure that women get their whole damn dollar for once. Come on, sisters. We can protect our reproductive health because we don't need men, ladies, telling us what to do with all of this. We got this. We can make sure in this country that everybody has clean air, clean food, and clean water, and not sell the American people out for the folks who buy off the Congress and the legislatures in this country. It is up to us. It always seems impossible until it is done. So I want you to know this afternoon that Senator Sanders says what he means and he means what he says. He understands that this economy is rigged against the everyday people of this country. He understands that President Donald Trump has done more rigging since he's been in the office. He wanted to talk about clearing out the swamp. Baby, he done brought the swamp monsters all up in that piece. So we're going to fight against a rigged system. Legal, political, economic, social. We got a criminal justice system that sees black and brown and indigenous and poor people as criminals just because they are poor. We are sick and tired of black men and women being gunned down in the United States of America. We're going to fix this system. Oh, it's rigged, baby. We're not going to stand for it. And we got a leader who was asked at an event with faith leaders what he would do about white supremacy. And he said, we're going to war with white supremacy in the United States of America. Oh, yeah, baby, we're going to do this. So, Florence, we need you because all the powers are assembled against this man and his mission because they know that he's going to do what he said he's going to do. He cannot do it alone, and that is where you come in because we need a political revolution in this country to make crooked paths straight. And we are all in this together no matter how we identify. Saving Mother Earth is a human issue, not just for one party or one group of people. We have nothing if we don't save Mother Earth.
And what can we say about Senator Nina Turner? See, this is a woman who drives me nuts because I got to follow her. And everybody's going to be disappointed in what I say after she goes up here. But Nina has been working hard for years, doing the most important work that we as a nation have got to see done.